a great fit, but I still try to understand them and try to be helpful. And if they find out I'm an attorney, I say, okay, here's a free legal advice, but I try not to give free legal advice because there are some, liabilities associated there. But so what I did was I listened to them, understood what they're going through, and display, the value of empathy, really listening, understanding. And then what I'll do is I'll be as helpful as I can. And then I'll ask them how they found out about us. And they'll say Google, and I'll say, great. If you don't mind, I'm going to text you a link right now. If you don't mind, writing a few words about your experience talking to us, that would help others be more willing to reach out to lawyers, because people typically are afraid of speaking to lawyers.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponto. Each week I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week I'm excited to connect with Jimmy Lai. He is an attorney and founder of Lai & Turner Law Firm in Oklahoma City. After watching too many clients get treated like case numbers, Jimmy built his firm on a simple belief. People in crisis deserve lawyers who actually give a damn about their story. Handling family law, criminal defense, personal injury, and business immigration, Jimmy's approach is radically simple: transparent communication, relentless advocacy, and treating every client like family. In today's conversation, we're going to explore why he believes that the legal industry's biggest problem is not bad law, it's bad relationships, and why human connection isn't just good ethics, it's good business. Congrats on helping families, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Hi, Carl. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to connect with you and hear more about how you approach running your firm differently, because I think the example you're setting is one that can be used by not just other law firms, but any sort of startup or business that is wanting to scale in a sustainable way, in a way that actually gets long-term success, because you're building really strong relationships. So tell me more about how you got to where you are and why you chose to run your firm this way.
Sure. Yeah. So briefly about me, I'm Jimmy Lai, and I'm originally from Taiwan. And 13 years ago, I came to Oklahoma with one dream, the American dream that everyone knows about, that if you work hard and you just put everything behind what you believe in, you can achieve the American dream. But what happened was 13 years, what happened was when I graduated undergrad and then ultimately graduating law school and with a business degree, I had a lot of doors closed. I had a lot of the opportunities, which I couldn't go for because I wasn't international. Every time I answered a question, why now or in the future require a work visa, I'll get an automatic disqualification email saying I'm not qualified. So I was pretty much forced to start my own business. And that's where we are today is after all those doors being closed on me, I was forced to build my own house, build my own door, and then build a foundation, build a house that now houses 20 staff members, including myself. And it's been 3 years of running this business, and we service immigration nationwide. And as you said, we also service family law, criminal defense, and personal injury here in Oklahoma. And to answer your other question, I want to ask you a quick question, whether you know what the number one complaint that bar associations typically get from clients. Like, what do you think that is?
Off the top of my head, based on the context, is that they feel like they're not being listened to, or kind of the cold interactions between clients and attorneys?
Almost, yeah. So definitely, broadly speaking, the number one complaint is client communications. Like the number one complaint that we get, and also that the bar association get, is that clients feel like attorneys are not responding to them, not talking to them, and it takes forever to hear from their attorneys, or the attorneys never communicate with them. So the number one complaint is client communications, and that's the foundation of how I'm trying to build our law firm differently. Is that we want to be transparent with communications. Um, we're still trying to be better at it every day. And so we've implemented AI tools and certain case management softwares to help us with communicating with clients. And that's why, you know, that's the reason why we try to build it differently, because I understood early on, before I started my law firm, that the number one complaint was client communications. So how do we differentiate that to build that human to human connection that you talk about? That if we don't communicate with our clients, they're in the dark of what's going on with their case, so they don't know what's going on. They're worried, and they're especially already stressed. And so I believe that communication is key, and being able to deliver on that is what will separate us from the average law firms.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's something that, especially in law, when you're dealing with a stressful case, the uncertainty and not having clear communication is more obviously a big problem for that. But even with in a B2B, like a startup or some other company that you're dealing with clients that are depending on your tools or the software or some sort of product to be delivered and to work, the easier it is to communicate with, or the more you communicate with them in ways that help them feel like you're understanding their needs and they're being met and you're responding to their questions or concerns, it just leads to a much stronger relationship. And it's something that just can't be from the frontline employees up, but it really has to be something that is supported all the way through the business culture and from the leadership team to make sure that communication is not just a value on the break room wall, but it's actually something that people are actively, like you said, practicing and also continuing to try and improve on and not getting complacent about.
Exactly. Yeah. And on our side, for every client that we onboard, we try to set the expectation. We let our clients know that, we try our very best to respond within 24 hours or respond within one business day. And so we let our client know this is our expectation. If you reach out to us, we try our very best to respond within one business day. And that's the expectation we set. And so I think it really helped us with our client relations when we've been able to set the expectation and then meet those expectations.
Yeah, and you mentioned something before we started recording that I thought was really powerful, that you have your teams that are fielding initial consultations and connections with prospective clients. You have them do something that I think a lot of companies, especially these days, if they're so focused on efficiency and the end result, are not focusing on, but it really makes a big difference for your business. What's that thing you have your frontline people do?
Sure. Yeah. So the frontline people, we call them intake. It really is just a fancy word for sales team. So for every law firm, we call sales team intake. And so for the intake, they're the first line of communications with client. And so I tell them that I really want them to listen to the callers, like listen to what they're going through, gather information, and understand what they're going through. And that goes back to one of our core values, which is empathy. We're really empathy-driven law firm to really understand what each potential client is going through. Because when people, they're probably at the lowest point of their life if they have to search for an attorney. So I tell my team to spend at least 10 minutes, if possible, and to really listen, understand what they're going through. And even if we can't help them because it's not a fit with us, or they're unable to hire us, to at least point them in the right direction. There are some free resources that we know of that we can at least send them that way, or other law firms that are better fit for them. So we're not definitely not a firm that try to serve everyone, but we try to at least understand what they're going through. And that goes to actually one of our secret strategy when we first started the business 2 years ago, was getting Google reviews. That was a pivotal moment for us. By getting Google reviews, it helped us with visibility on Google and getting more phone calls. So that's the strategy I used in the early days, it was me myself answering those phone calls.
Yeah.
So I try not to disclose that I'm an attorney, so at least I can talk freely and at least point them in the right direction. But what I did was I was answering all these phone calls. Sometimes they're not a great fit, but I still try to understand them and try to be helpful. And um, if they find out I'm an attorney, I say, okay, here's a free legal advice. But I try not to give free legal advice because there are some, liabilities associated there. But so what I did was I listened to them, understood what they're going through, and display, the value of empathy, really listening, understanding. And then what I'll do is I'll be as helpful as I can. And then I'll ask them how they found out about us. And they'll say Google. And I'll say, great. If you don't mind, I'm going to text you a link right now. If you don't mind, writing a few words about your experience talking to us, that would help others be more willing to reach out to lawyers, because people typically are afraid of speaking to lawyers. And so that's what we did. And in the first 90 days of our business, we gained 60 Google reviews. And that really helped us with more visibility. In the early days, we were maybe only getting one phone call a week, maybe some weeks, no phone calls. And until now, we've, amassed, I would say, around 330 reviews. And since then, more than half our phone calls are from organic Google, Google Maps, Google Search. And we regularly field about 20 to 40 phone calls each day now.
Yeah, I love that case study, that story, because it shows how big of an impact on your business it can have to show that you care about people beyond their wallet or what they can bring you as a client. And just having that, taking 10 minutes to listen to someone and understand who they are and what they're dealing with, especially, again, because they're often distressed and stressed out, and they're not having a great time, to say the least. So having someone listen to them and care about them is a huge service unto itself that can help them get through that really challenging period in their life. But then also, from a business and marketing standpoint, like you said, when people have that initial great experience, even if they don't end up being your client, but you pointed them in the right direction, or you got them referred over to something that could help them, and then you still added value to their lives and help them get that solution, so they're willing to share that experience with people. And when they hear that, the pleasant surprise that talking to a lawyer isn't scary, or talking to this business is actually that they're being seen as human beings, not as annual, like an hourly paycheck sort of thing, or
Right.
hourly fee, walking around with a problem. That is a huge differentiator. And for pretty much any business that has that kind of sales team, or has the customer facing teams, gaining the reputation as a company that has people that actually care and are willing to listen and connect with people on that level. And again, it seems like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes must take so long for each call. But when it leads to the sort of results you just shared for a business that's going, like you said, from like one or no calls a week to how many you're getting now, that's a huge impact on the business and the success that you couldn't get if you just tried to brute force. At least you couldn't get with like the same kind of like budget if you tried to brute force it with paid ads or other sort of marketing things. But by investing in the connections with people and the community, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to move away from purely transactional into more relationship selling. So we're building that connection with the caller and developing the relationship. And that ultimately leads to, once they trust us, like us, and know that we're the right law firm to service them, that the whole experience of working with us, we try to maintain that. And that goes into the back end side of, once fulfillment is done, to turn our clients into raging fans of ours. Then we'll start the referral relationship with us. So that's like the whole, like an ecosystem. Start with empathy. When they come in, they understand how we work. On the fulfillment side, we maintain that level of service. And then towards the end, turn the clients into raging fans of ours. And then or refer us clients.
And as you were sharing that story as well, something I thought of that when it comes to those building those relationships, you're talking about it from the like spending 10 minutes to just listen to your potential customers or the customers. And it reminded me a previous guest who she runs like in a whole different industry, like in like the different field, but her approach to leading teams is to when she's talking or meeting with your internal teams on like sort of meeting is the first 10 minutes of her meeting is just non-business related stuff. It's small talk, it's connecting with each other, asking people how they're doing, listening to what they answer and how they're feeling, and just connecting with people as human beings for 10 minutes before getting into the business stuff of the meeting agenda, and how those little touch bases and connecting on a human level for her employees makes a huge difference in their performance and the way they show up and their relationship with the business. And so it's funny that the solution that she uses for her internal teams is the same solution you're using for connecting with customers. And it really emphasizes that what makes both those work is the human connection and the empathy and listening to people. It doesn't matter what industry is or necessarily the label you put on the relationship, but it's because when you're in both cases, it's someone who's showing empathy and listening to the people around them leads to better business results, whether it's with employees or with customers or clients.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of give you a quick glimpse at when people call us, instead of saying, all right, what's your name? What's your first name, last name, which county, and for example, if a family law, like how many kids do you have? Do you have a house? Instead of going straight into that, we reassure them and say, hey, thank you for calling us today. We understand what you're going through, or sorry that you're going through this, but we appreciate you calling us. And hopefully by the end of our conversation, we will have potential resolutions for you. So at the end of our conversation, it's either you can talk to an attorney with us, or you can hire us, or we can point you in the right direction, or point you to more resources. So that's give you a quick glimpse of how we handle a phone call from the human to human empathy driven aspect.
Yeah, I think that's an important also that your part of communication is setting the expectations for what people can expect, because especially if they've never talked with an attorney and never talked to a specific like type of company, then it can be very nerve-wracking if they don't know what to expect. And so I do think a lot of times if someone gets on a call with any sort of rep at a company, and the rep just kind of dives into their scripted spiel and doesn't set expectations of what the client or customer, prospective client or customer can expect, and it help them show that here's what we're doing to add value even through this initial conversation. That sort of approach is a breath of fresh air for a lot of people, because it actually sets that relationship up in the right way, instead of like I said, diving into like all the personal information that people might be nervous about sharing, or just diving into a sales pitch before the person who called is even a chance to really say what they are and what they're looking for. So I think that is another great way to make sure that the communication and the empathy is really evident from the initial reaction or initial touch point.
Right. Yeah, you definitely nailed it right there.
So what's the last minute or so we have here, what's the actionable tip or strategy you recommend people do to get started on this process? They recognize, okay, we need this, or we can improve our business. What's a way people can start applying this or start making the transition to using this approach more?
For us, when we first try to roll this out, I guess is trying to understand the customer journey, like understanding the aspect of, when they're looking for attorneys, at what point are they starting from? And so we try to understand that, okay, if it's, for example, immigration, there's they have certain struggles. And so we try to understand what are the typical struggles that people have before they reach out to an attorney, like lack of information, for example, immigration, not understanding the process, or fear of getting deported. These are some of the most common questions. So to establish that process, we understand what the fears and concerns that people typically have before they reach out to us. And so we built a sales process or the intake process to mirror that, to understand and to provide as much information as we can, and really training our people to just, I guess, hard to put into words of how we tell our team that this empathy. We want to understand what they're going through, and always keep in mind that when they call us, they're not happy. They're at the low point of their life. So that's what we keep telling our sales team, like, hey, remember, this is what they're going through, and these are the potential questions and concerns they have, and our goal is to help them, not to make money. It's to help them, and by helping them, that's where the rest of the equation comes in of running a business. But first, it's always coming from the point of understanding, listening to them, and then the feeling of you want to help them, and that's the basic strategy, I guess.
Love it so much. Thank you so much for connecting with me today, Jimmy. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with either of us, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.